The Buddhist kingdom of Gandhara stands as a pivotal crossroads of ancient civilizations, where East meets West and faith converges with culture. Its strategic location along the Silk Road facilitated a rich exchange of ideas, shaping the course of Buddhism and beyond. As we embark on this journey through the ruins of Gandhara, the whispers of a forgotten era await, beckoning us to uncover the secrets of a kingdom that once changed the world. In the fertile valleys and snow-capped mountains of the northwestern Indian subcontinent, a region that would eventually become the Buddhist kingdom of Gandhara began to take shape around 1500 BCE. This was an era marked by significant migration and cultural exchange, as various Indo-Aryan tribes, such as the Kambojas and the Gandharas, settled along the banks of the Kabul River and its tributaries. The name Gandhara itself is derived from the Sanskrit word gandha, meaning fragrance or perfume, likely referring to the region's rich resources of sandalwood, cedar, and other aromatic plants. As these tribes established themselves in the region, they developed a complex network of small settlements and trading posts, which would eventually coalesce into a distinct cultural and geographical entity. The Gandharas were skilled farmers, cultivating crops such as wheat, barley, and rice in the fertile alluvial plains, while also breeding horses and other livestock for trade and transportation. Their strategic location at the crossroads of the ancient world facilitated a rich exchange of goods, ideas, and technologies with neighboring civilizations, including the Persians to the west, the Chinese to the east, and the Indians to the south. One of the earliest recorded mentions of Gandhara can be found in the Rig Veda, an ancient Indian Vedic text composed around 1200 BCE. The Rig Veda describes the Gandharas as a powerful and prosperous people, with their own distinct language, culture, and traditions. This early account also hints at the region's spiritual significance, with references to the sacred river Kuba, which was believed to have healing properties and was revered by the local population. As the centuries passed, Gandhara continued to evolve and grow, with the rise of various city-states and kingdoms that would eventually give birth to a rich and vibrant Buddhist culture. The region's unique blend of Indian, Persian, and Greek influences created a fertile ground for the development of new artistic, architectural, and philosophical traditions. The 6th century BCE marked a significant turning point in the history of Gandhara, as the region came under the influence of the Achaemenid Empire, which stretched from modern-day Iran to Egypt and Anatolia. The Achaemenids brought with them their own administrative systems, architectural styles, and cultural practices, which would have a profound impact on the development of Gandharan society. Under the rule of the Achaemenid king Cyrus the Great, Gandhara became an important center of trade and commerce, with merchants and travelers from all over the ancient world passing through its cities and towns. As the Achaemenid Empire expanded and contracted over the centuries, Gandhara remained a vital component of its administrative and economic structures. The region's strategic location and rich resources made it an attractive prize for various conquering powers, including the Persians, the Greeks, and eventually the Indians. Yet, despite these external influences, the people of Gandhara managed to maintain their unique cultural identity, forging a distinct blend of traditions that would ultimately give rise to one of the most fascinating and enigmatic civilizations of the ancient world. In the midst of this complex web of cultural exchange and imperial ambition, the seeds of Buddhism were being sown in the fertile soil of the Indian subcontinent. The teachings of Siddhartha Gautama, a young prince from the Shakya kingdom, would eventually spread throughout the region, finding fertile ground in the cosmopolitan cities and towns of Gandhara. As the Buddhist faith took root, it would intersect with the existing cultural and spiritual traditions of the region, giving rise to a unique and vibrant artistic, architectural, and philosophical heritage that would become synonymous with the Buddhist kingdom of Gandhara. As he grew up, Siddhartha was exposed to the luxury and privilege of palace life, but he was also deeply troubled by the suffering and inequality that he saw around him. Siddhartha's journey towards enlightenment would take him on a path of intense spiritual exploration as he delved into the mysteries of the human condition and the nature of reality. His teachings, which emphasized the importance of compassion, mindfulness, and self-discipline, would eventually find a receptive audience in the cosmopolitan cities and towns of Gandhara. where people from all walks of life were seeking answers to fundamental questions about the meaning and purpose of existence. As the Buddhist faith began to spread throughout the region, it intersected with the existing cultural and spiritual traditions of Gandhara, giving rise to a unique and vibrant artistic, architectural, and philosophical heritage. The city of Taxila, which was an important center of learning and culture in ancient India, became a major hub for Buddhist scholarship and art, attracting scholars and pilgrims from all over the ancient world. The combination of Greek, Persian, and Indian influences in Gandhara created a distinctive artistic style characterized by intricate carvings, sculptures, and paintings that depicted the life and teachings of the Buddha. The region's unique blend of cultural traditions also gave rise to a rich literary heritage, with scholars and poets composing works on philosophy, metaphysics, and spirituality that would have a profound impact on the development of Buddhist thought. As the centuries passed, the Buddhist kingdom of Gandhara continued to evolve and grow, with its capital city, Peshawar, becoming an important center of trade, commerce, and culture. The kingdom's strategic location at the crossroads of the ancient world made it a vital component of the Silk Road, a network of trade routes that stretched from China to the Mediterranean. The intersection of cultural and spiritual traditions in Gandhara created a unique and fascinating civilization, one that was characterized by a deep commitment to learning, art, and intellectual curiosity. The Buddhist kingdom of Gandhara would eventually leave an indelible mark on the course of human history, as its scholars, artists, and thinkers helped to shape the development of Buddhism, one of the world's great spiritual traditions. As the Buddhist kingdom of Gandhara continued to flourish, its scholars and artists made significant contributions to the development of Buddhist thought and art. One of the most influential figures of this period was the philosopher and scholar Nagarjuna, who lived in the 2nd century CE. Born in southern India, Nagarjuna traveled extensively throughout the region, including Gandhara, where he engaged with local scholars and developed his groundbreaking ideas on the nature of reality and the concept of emptiness. Nagarjuna's teachings had a profound impact on the development of Mahayana Buddhism, which emphasized the ideal of the bodhisattva, or enlightened being, who seeks to attain enlightenment not just for personal benefit, but for the sake of all sentient beings. This ideology resonated deeply with the people of Gandhara, who were already familiar with the concept of compassion and selflessness through their exposure to Buddhist teachings. The city of Taxila, which had become a major center of learning and culture in ancient India, continued to attract scholars and pilgrims from all over the ancient world. The university at Taxila, which was founded during the reign of the Mauryan Emperor Ashoka, was particularly renowned for its faculties of philosophy, medicine, and astronomy. Students from as far away as China, Greece, and Persia came to study at Taxila, where they engaged with local scholars and learned about the latest developments in Buddhist thought and art. One of the most famous students to attend the university at Taxila was the Chinese monk, Xuanzang, who traveled to India in the 7th century CE in search of Buddhist scriptures and knowledge. During his stay in Gandhara, Xuanzang studied under the guidance of local scholars and translated many important Buddhist texts into Chinese, including the famous Mahaprajnaparamita Sutra. His travels and writings would later become instrumental in introducing Buddhism to China and shaping the development of East Asian Buddhism. As the Buddhist kingdom of Gandhara continued to thrive, its artists and craftsmen created some of the most exquisite examples of Buddhist art, which reflected the unique blend of cultural traditions that characterized the region. The famous Gandharan style of sculpture, which emerged during this period, was distinguished by its intricate carvings, delicate proportions, and expressive facial features. Many of these sculptures depicted the life and teachings of the Buddha, as well as various bodhisattvas and other celestial beings. The construction of grand Buddhist monuments, such as the towering stupa at Takshashila, also became a hallmark of the Buddhist kingdom of Gandhara. These structures, which were often built on sacred sites associated with the life of the Buddha or other important Buddhist figures, served as centers of pilgrimage and devotion for Buddhists from all over the ancient world. The stupa at Takshashila, which was said to contain a relic of the Buddha himself, was particularly renowned for its grandeur and beauty, attracting pilgrims and scholars from as far away as China and Greece. As the Buddhist kingdom of Gandhara continued to thrive, its influence extended beyond the region, with monks and scholars traveling to distant lands to spread Buddhist teachings. One such monk was Vasubandhu, a prominent Indian scholar who lived in the 4th century CE and was instrumental in developing the Yogacara school of Mahayana Buddhism. Born in Purusapura, the capital city of Gandhara, Vasubandhu traveled extensively throughout India, engaging with local scholars and developing his ideas on the nature of reality and the path to enlightenment. Vasubandhu's teachings had a profound impact on the development of East Asian Buddhism, particularly in China and Korea, where his works were widely studied and translated. His most famous work, the Abhidharmakosa, a comprehensive treatise on Buddhist philosophy and psychology, remained a central text in Buddhist scholarship for centuries. The Abhidharmakosa's influence can be seen in the works of later Chinese scholars such as Xuanzang's disciple, Kuiji, who wrote extensive commentaries on Vasubandhu's teachings. Meanwhile, back in Gandhara, the kingdom continued to flourish under the rule of the Kitturite dynasty, a group of nomadic warriors who had conquered the region in the 4th century CE. The Kitturites were patrons of Buddhist art and architecture, and their reign saw the construction of numerous monasteries, stupas, and temples throughout Gandhara. One of the most famous examples of Kitturite-era architecture is the monastery at Bamiyan, which was built in the 5th century CE and featured 2 massive Buddha statues, each over 100 feet tall. The Bamiyan Monastery was an important center of Buddhist learning and art, attracting scholars and pilgrims from all over the ancient world. The monastery's walls were adorned with intricate carvings and paintings, depicting scenes from Buddhist mythology and the life of the Buddha. The site also featured a large library, which housed a vast collection of Buddhist scriptures and commentaries, including works by prominent Gandharan scholars like Vasubandhu. As the Kitturite dynasty gave way to the Hephthalites, another group of nomadic warriors, in the 5th century CE, Gandhara continued to thrive as a center of Buddhist culture and learning. The Hephthalites were also patrons of Buddhist art and architecture, and their reign saw the construction of numerous new monasteries and temples throughout the region. One of the most famous examples of Hephthali-era architecture is the monastery at Mes Einak, which was built in the 6th century CE and featured a large stupa surrounded by numerous smaller shrines and chapels. The Mes Einak monastery was an important center of Buddhist pilgrimage, attracting devotees from all over the ancient world. The site was said to contain a relic of the Buddha himself, and pilgrims would travel for miles to catch a glimpse of the sacred object. As the Hephthalite dynasty reached its peak in the 6th century CE, Gandhara was at the height of its cultural and economic power. The kingdom was a major center of trade and commerce, with merchants coming from all over the ancient world to buy and sell goods such as silk, spices, and precious stones. The kingdom's strategic location at the crossroads of the Silk Road made it an important hub of international trade, and its Buddhist monasteries and temples were renowned throughout the ancient world for their beauty and learning. The famous Chinese monk, Xuanzang, who had traveled to India in search of Buddhist scriptures and knowledge, passed through Gandhara during his journey, marveling at the kingdom's beauty and prosperity. In his travelogue, Xuanzang wrote extensively about the kingdom's monasteries and temples, praising their grandeur and beauty. He also noted the kingdom's vibrant cultural scene, with numerous festivals and celebrations taking place throughout the year, including the famous Gandharan festival of Nowruz, which marked the beginning of spring. As the 7th century CE progressed, Gandhara's cultural and economic power began to wane due to a combination of internal strife and external pressures. The Hephthalite dynasty, which had ruled Gandhara since the 5th century CE, faced challenges from neighboring kingdoms and internal power struggles. In 644 CE, the Arab armies of the Rashidun Caliphate, led by Abdullah ibn Amir, invaded Gandhara, marking the beginning of a new era in the region's history. The Arabs brought with them their own language, culture, and religion, which would eventually supplant the existing Buddhist traditions. The city of Taxila, once a major center of Buddhist learning, was conquered by the Arabs in 664 CE, and its famous university was destroyed. Many of Gandhara's Buddhist monasteries and temples were also destroyed or converted into mosques, marking a significant decline in the region's Buddhist heritage. Despite this decline, some Buddhist communities continued to thrive in Gandhara, particularly in the remote valleys and hills. The Chinese monk Chuanzhang's disciple Kuiji, who had traveled to India with his master, remained in Gandhara and continued to translate Buddhist scriptures into Chinese. His work helped to preserve many of the region's Buddhist texts, which would later be transmitted to China and other parts of East Asia. In the 8th century CE, the Abbasid Caliphate, which had succeeded the Rashidun Caliphate, launched a series of campaigns against the remaining Buddhist strongholds in Gandhara. The city of Bamiyan, with its famous Buddha statues, was conquered by the Abbasids in 815 CE, and many of its inhabitants were forced to convert to Islam. The monastery at Messainak, which had been an important center of Buddhist pilgrimage, was also destroyed during this period. As the centuries passed, Gandhara's Buddhist heritage continued to decline, and the region became increasingly Islamicized. Many of its ancient monasteries and temples were abandoned or destroyed, and their artifacts were lost or scattered throughout the region. However, some remnants of Gandhara's Buddhist past continued to survive, particularly in the form of art and architecture. In the 11th century CE, the Ghaznavid Empire, a Muslim dynasty that ruled much of present-day Afghanistan and Pakistan, launched a series of campaigns against the remaining Buddhist communities in Gandhara. The city of Taxila was once again conquered, and its remaining Buddhist inhabitants were forced to flee or convert to Islam. The famous Bamiyan Buddha statues, which had survived for centuries, were finally destroyed by the Ghaznavids in 1221 CE. The destruction of the Bamiyan Buddhas marked the final end of Gandhara's Buddhist era, and the region was eventually absorbed into the Islamic world. Many of its ancient monasteries and temples were forgotten, and their artifacts were lost to time. However, the legacy of Gandhara's Buddhist past continued to influence the art, architecture, and culture of the region, and its history remains an important part of the cultural heritage of South Asia. Its legacy can be seen in the intricate carvings, majestic monasteries, and timeless teachings that continue to inspire and awe us today. As the sands of history shift and new tales unfold, the memory of this enchanting kingdom will endure, a reminder of the transformative impact that a single civilization can have on the course of human history. Thank you for joining me throughout this historical journey. That's all for today's History with Herodotus. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, remember that, to understand the present, we must first understand the past.